What is Sarah Kaplan not coming? She didn't
Yeah,
respond.
Yeah, she texted all of us.
What
like,
about,
college.
We'll go on this side.
Okay.
come over
What
here.
about what? Claudia,
Claudia.
she can't.
Do you have the revised
Okay, she
plans?
sent
Because
me
I
an
don't have it set
application
in mind.
for
Okay, I just, actually, I just brought
Formal
the
application.
Oh, okay.
detail of the
So she's-
thing, and, because he was concerned about heights. So
this is Woodland, right?
yeah.
Okay.
You're talking, I think Stanley was concerned about that? Was it
Right.
Stanley, unfortunately.
So basically, here, I got a couple more copies if you wanna see it.
When, I'm sorry, what night was this presented? Is this
I remember you
The
guys.
last meeting,
Oh, I
Was it
missed it,
last
alright.
meeting?
yeah, sorry,
So you might have to help me a little bit, so.
okay,
So this is what you gave us the last meeting.
right, so what we were doing was, he
There were
was
certain things that you
concerned-
weren't sure about, but
Well, he was,
also
yeah,
you
he
were
was
gonna
concerned about, making sure that all of the sort of elements of it, the fascias and
Were indicated.
were indicated size-wise and otherwise, so we've gone over that and made
Right,
sure that
okay.
it's taken care of.
What part of the house, I'm sorry?
Right here, this element here,
Can you
which
flatten
was
that out?
We saw that was the all glass.
Yeah, right,
thing, but
right,
we-
right.
I think
So
we.
this
Yeah, I think
was-
this was two times.
was one.
Okay, I did see
Yeah,
this.
I don't think that's.
But
This is the
did you
third,
miss it last
this
time?
is
This is
Oh.
three.
This is,
I thought in general, I think, certainly for me, I think we had some issues or objections with the uniqueness of that being just plate glass as opposed to the
Right,
country
right.
nature of the house.
And I think what we were trying to do, and what didn't really come across in here was that, you're gonna see this stuff through the glass, and the last time we came, I think
Stanley was here.
he was sort of concerned about like how we gonna clean the glass, and so we moved everything in 4 inches so that it would be, easier
What's
to deal
happening here?
with.
This is different. You're putting
That
like-
is different, yes.
I don't
When
think
they
it was
asked
about
us
cleaning, I
that-
think it was about how it was being placed in.
No, I think it was cleaning was
Oh,
an issue.
really?
It was part of
Absolutely.
it, he's like, he was like, it's not gonna do that, he goes, you're not showing the thickness of the glass
Right.
railing, you're not, the stuff
Right.
wasn't shown to exactly
Right.
what it
Well, it's not an
was.
honest depiction, maybe.
Yes,
Right,
and that's
right,
what Stanley was
Yeah.
concerned about.
So I think this
Clean
is
the
much
windows.
closer to.
The other issue, excuse me, if you'll excuse me, is that he didn't realize that the downstairs sits back from the upstairs.
Right,
It's
so
not
we're
in the
trying
same-
to give you
it's not in
some
the same
idea that
plane.
that's,
Oh, okay.
way back here. And these we changed to French doors because he was sort of objecting to the idea that they were just sort of big plate glass things down there as well. So that brings this sort of an element back into here.
What about here though?
Well, that's still gonna be
That's all
just plate glass and
It's a
uh,
formal dining room, so
and a
it's gonna
beam.
be,
and beams.
Kind of an oddity in the architecture, isn't it?
Well,
it's a little creative.
this was
One way
what the owner asked us for, really.
I know, but it's the
You know.
spirit of the house though.
Well, I think it does actually go with the rest of it.
It's here. So what he's done is he's taking the bottom part of plate glass and he's
Right,
making
now
it more
that's,
consistent.
no, I understand that, so
And
these are
now
French
he's still
wooden
got
doors.
this that he's
Right.
given us a little bit more
Doesn't
rendered,
really
but
bother
it's
me.
still.
It's like a little modern element.
Is this whole thing projected from the
Yes.
face of the building?
Not if this is now.
Yeah, that's
Wooden
way,
doors.
that's way back.
Right.
It'll be rustic modern when it's done. It's gonna look, it's gonna, those are gonna be,
You're trying to make it look like those wooden beams are there with no black, with nothing,
Right.
just, it's
Yeah,
open,
just
like it's
like-
open, you just have
Right.
like,
it's gonna feel rustic modern, it's not really 100% modern. by any means.
Well, it's weird. This is so like almost
Well,
typical
that's-
suburban. This
sure.
is much more rendered in a woodsy kind of a look.
Well, the backside of it is gonna be
This is
seen
also
by
a-
It's
nobody.
gonna be all,
the backside's existing or not?
No.
The backside.
the
is,
backside's gonna have
Well,
a giant
actually,
rock right
the house
behind
is,
it, like
it's
it's gonna
buried
be.
in the woods, and there's nobody behind, there's one house behind them.
We look at all the elevations.
Oh, I understand.
Actually, I mean, I'm not familiar with it. I don't mind that being different because it's so centered and like, it's not, I mean, it's definitely trying to be centered, but I don't know this is kind
Where, so, I'm sorry, so how many, which is the front and
This is
this
the,
elevation is where?
this is the front,
Glass is gonna face the pond.
so the glass is gonna face the pond,
it's that
Right.
bump out there.
and I think, how far out is it to Crow Hill from there? Quarter of a mile? Yeah.
It doesn't bother me at all, I
And they
actually
also
like it.
own
I like
the
it as an
house
element,
next door.
yeah, so.
it doesn't, I don't think it bothers me that much, I think it looks so different here because everything else has the, a grain and it's so blank because it's glass. But I
Well,
like I
it's-
said, because it's right in the middle, I think it's.
This is the revised, right?
Yes.
This is, so this is.
No, that's last week.
That's last.
One under that,
Here,
Yeah.
here you go, here you go, here you go.
No, the owner requested, it's a custom home, designed for the owner, and he requested, an unobstructed view from his dining room of the pond, so it's
What's
all
the difference
woods all the way
between
around.
We moved the, if you notice, the beams are moved in on both sides.
Well, yeah, beams are moved in, not glass moved out.
Right.
Oh,
This is 12-inch now.
yeah.
Oh, so the.
Yeah, I think it was
beams are
12 inch
inset
before, but it
into
all
the-
fits, and then 14 inches on the bottom.
So this glass is outboard of the
Right,
beams,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
The glass is, where is the glass, I'm sorry?
The glass is gonna be outside of the beam.
Outside,
Outside, it's all there.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And here, this is also just a big piece of plate glass,
Yep.
also in aluminum frame.
Coming around the corner,
So
yep.
you're doing a
Sorry.
little. you
Right,
want the
yeah, like a
three-sided
U-shaped
piece.
thing, right.
It's on you, though.
Oh, me?
It's all up to you.
Because we're,
What do you think? Well, maybe Sarah's okay with it.
Well, are these anodized aluminum sills or what color is that? I mean, if
Probably
that's a
gonna be
problem for you with it,
Black. More, probably black.
Yeah, probably black.
and then it'd go away.
Alright, if you guys are okay with it, I mean, I think it's an oddity in the house, I think otherwise it looks like a very beautiful house, you've done a nice job. Just finds like an odd object.
There's
and
gonna be
I understand
elements in the house.
Client
that are
may
gonna-
ask for it, but that
But
doesn't
they're
mean
gonna,
it's
they're gonna
appropriate.
have, they're gonna have steel and wood and, beams and stuff in the house, decorative wise. I know their taste, and they're lending more to the rustic, modern. They're gonna have mixture of things. It's not gonna be like an old colonial inside, it's gonna be more in the modern, their furniture and everything else. The kitchen's gonna be more on the modern side, so it's gonna go with the interior, with the decorating inside. The stairway is probably gonna be steel and big pieces of wood and stuff like this.
Right, but you won't see that from the outside, but I'm just surprised you didn't put that element in other places. Okay, you guys are okay with
okay.
that? Okay. Alright.
Good to go? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, and thank you for working with us.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it.
And we will see you hopefully
Another time.
sometime.
Another house coming.
Take care, thank you.
We're doing a bathroom for 85 years old, so that's our other project. That's not coming to architecture review.
Okay.
Yeah.
One's built, one's.
It's 4 copies.
Yeah, it's a nice house, I think it's a real oddity. And,
6 more quick?
Hi.
client
How are
likes
you?
it.
How's it going?
Good.
Yeah.
You can walk it up.
If there's some little, little piece, I actually was all over it, I was in a few places,
You know what, I'm gonna put this.
All right, I'll see.
And I think it was behind it.
yeah,
I feel
yeah.
like
Oh,
it's
yeah,
all
one,
the
there's
way.
only one copy.
I'm hoping they're gonna do a nice job, they seem like they're doing a
Yeah,
quality
before.
project.
Excuse me?
Hello.
Hi.
John Turnquist, JT2 Architects. We were here last time for the elevations of the residents.
Is that
And
the last one you showed us, or
Yeah.
the new one?
this is the new one.
Okay, where's the old one? Can we see the old one?
This is the one right past the pond?
Yes.
Or across from the pond?
It's
Past the
up,
pond.
it's down the extension, you go up, it's a,
If you go up and then there's
The
a,
view is the pond.
okay.
Missing page, isn't it? Is that- I do have the other,
it's not, I have it in my car, but.
there's a big one. Oh, it's right there, it's on top. Is it? Yes, no, that's the new one.
That's the new one.
Yeah, there's an additional elevation, here, I have it right here. It's underneath. I didn't think that I
Oh, we just like
You
to
just wanna compare,
Is it that one?
No, this is
No.
probably, I mean, it was,
I'm gonna explain the difference while I'm on it. I dropped the roof down. The front of the house was one plane all the way across before, and I dropped the roof and stepped it back 1.5 feet to keep the context of the original residence. This is existing, this is the proposed addition on the right-hand side. So I will,
yeah, I think that was one of the things, because it looked like one long roof going across
Yeah,
before.
you know,
And that's what was wrong.
Take your time, take your time.
It actually looks similar to the house that I lived in on Marquardt.
wait,
I remember you telling me that Sarah
Well,
was
we
the other.
both
Yeah, Sarah.
lived next to each
So
other.
you're doing it all the way flat, right, so that doesn't look very
it,
good.
Which we thought we wanted, but actually after the last review, I understand.
It looks better.
Looks a lot better.
Looks a lot better.
It does.
broke it down, stepped it back a little bit, and then it's a different entity from the main plane.
What's on
So the
top?
elevation is,
But the roof in the back aligns
Wow,
with the existing
okay.
roof?
Yes, that's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Is there a reason there's not 4 windows on the front elevation and another window on the side? What's
The
behind?
bathroom there, I mean, I can't, yeah, I mean,
Looks kind of odd also with just a blank wall.
yeah,
Can you get some special window or something, a circular window, a octagon or something?
right here,
Clerestory or something?
Yeah,
yeah.
'cause there's other size windows down there.
How does your plan look like? Where,
You know, I could,
where's the footprint? Is that this elevation?
yes, the,
On the
we
shower,
could
you-
put, we could
do
put a
something.
window.
a little,
Yeah, something,
just
special,
little,
yeah,
doesn't have
something.
to be
Maybe a little
big.
one like, I notice Markwood has a lot of, like
Yeah,
that.
something, an
Yeah.
oval, a rectangle, something.
Yeah,
Something that's in scale with the others, that, you probably appreciate the light and everything.
Yeah,
too.
definitely, we were a fan of.
And what about on the side where you've got the dotted in chimney, but what's,
we're gonna keep the chimney inside the house. So that's behind, was the former elevation.
so,
So-
but that's,
Yeah, the chimney's on the inside, we're gonna keep that there.
no, I'm just looking at this elevation on the side, so you've got one window here and one window here, is that right?
Yeah,
You can come in,
Yeah, well,
It's
so
a-
I
but
just want to say yours sort of
it's
an
gonna
open
be at
se-
the end.
You're in session?
it's gonna be at the end, yeah.
Yeah, I know, I saw these.
Okay,
You know, it just looks like an unbalanced elevation, you got, look at the side elevation
we could add a window there.
there. You
Well,
got 5,
that's-
on your
that's-
side, you've got 5 windows, it looks like somebody wants to come draw another window in. You know, it just looks kind of odd.
It could, we could put one
well,
there.
what is there?
Yeah, is it too much
It-
light
it's
there?
You gotta work it into your kitchen,
Yeah.
make sure your kitchen works.
We gotta,
I mean, I have the
Figure that
kitchen
kitchen
plans,
layout.
everything. Because you have cabinets, and then
Yeah.
the 2
Yeah.
windows, the range is in the middle.
I'd
Of
like
the two
to
windows.
consider that in the future when I actually figure out the cabinets inside there, if I can. But the front elevation, we can certainly add that on there.
I mean, we're always a fan of more light. That's what we fell in love with the house.
I mean, we could, yeah. But I think the concern here was just to step. the
I
front.
think that's a good solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really it. That's-
Okay, if you draw that in, then
Not
sign it.
I'm the one who's
On
giving
these
me.
over here,
Not,
Excuse
not
me?
yours, on ours.
Okay, okay.
That's fine.
Just, this one, but
what kind of shape are you, so similar to the one downstairs?
Are we gonna mimic what's there?
You can do that little one downstairs or?
Actually, the little one downstairs would be a bad idea, no? It's just give it some architectural context.
is
That's a
this
garage, it's blank, it's in the woods,
What's the backside of this look like? Oh, that's over
up on
here.
top,
That's okay.
yeah.
Well, that's up to you guys,
Yeah,
that you could
what type
What-
of
do
window?
something small.
excuse me?
What type of window you want there?
We're gonna put a double hung window, but it might be narrower
I'm
Just
sorry, which
indicate
location now?
what you guys want.
on the front of the house. There's a
Yeah, doesn't
bathroom
matter.
there, we could put a double hung.
It's okay, what's in the room below it? Maybe you
Can you
wanna
make
think
that
about
one
making,
more narrow?
yeah.
Yeah.
The kitchen is below.
And I think,
No, that's what I'm
it's,
saying, you wanna shrink that window in the kitchen to make it match the one above it, so.
yeah, let me, I'm gonna,
Every window doesn't need to be the same, but
Yeah.
maybe you wanna balance them in rows or something.
Yeah, I mean, the windows now are not the same.
12/7.
12/6.
6.
Alright.
Okay. Alright, we can do that in this round. Drawing on this one here.
Thank you.
You can draw on that one too.
Okay, yeah, good luck.
Just begin. Enjoy the holidays and then deal with the stresses of what's to come.
Are you gonna live through it, or are you gonna live in the house?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Have you lived in the house?
It's all there,
Have you lived in the house a long time?
Since 2014.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
for a while.
Thank you. Thanks.
Just, check for, I don't know when this house was built.
1940, right?
Two.
Check for land.
Yeah.
2 little one? Okay.
We had it in our house and we ended up moving out when we were doing, it was just one room, it was weird. But we encapsulated it with a
Lead paint.
90 or something, it was lead paint, but we encapsulated it rather than tear it all down, because there were some curves in the ceiling. So there's a special, that was a while ago, so I'm sure there's a new product, but there's a special bond that you can put over it that really kind of seals it in. So you don't have to- Yeah, I know, we had a young child too.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, good night.
Most of those houses were built at the same time they were built. So you know the corner house on 120 and
Over the top plate,
Marjorie
438 over there.
or something, so they combined it.
There's a stipulation in the code.
So that
There's
first
bring
house was the
38 all the way out,
farmhouse.
and then air seal, so you're gonna put,
It's cathedral, but it's cathedral though, there's no joist.
there's no joist, would you spray foam?
Can, but it's only 2x4s.
They lived a little further, so you
It's
know.
grandfather in theory, but
Yeah.
Well, no, but then, alright, so
somebody
but
needs
yeah,
to
it's
do that.
unfinished,
Unless
I have to look it up one
That's
time,
true.
but if it's unfinished, you're going to finish.
Yeah, that's true.
it's changing, is it changing the use?
But when you break it up.
Because now it's,
when you break
that
something,
changing use, don't I fall back into the new?
apart, you know,
That's what I'm thinking, I was just,
That's what we thought too, that's how I drew it,
we-
like, it's got a loose in his head.
but if someone goes in,
So,
you can't make it.
good, do like rigid foam on the outside, so she doesn't wanna rip off the brand new roof. Okay, so, so we have, is the existing,
where are we, Little Pine Road?
little flat,
Where's that?
it's so the Marquisco section.
We don't have Sarah here to tell us exactly where the street is.
My map is kinda small, but it's the Marquisco section, it's the,
Was it near?
it's not that far off of,
Croton Lake Road?
Court Lake Road, yeah.
Okay.
So we're doing, in addition to the rear portion of the house, there is an existing one-story outdoor exterior terrace, which has finished space below it. And we are looking to cantilever part of the kitchen on the back corner, and then put a breakfast room on top of that terrace. So there's no new footprint. The existing house is stucco, so we'd be matching the existing house.
Wait, is this the existing, this is not stuck? This is
Sorry, it's half stucco and half siding, there's some siding on that as well.
what? Well, you can't tell, this is the
Yeah,
printer
they
that's
print it.
giving,
It looks like it's siding.
that's siding, you can see that.
There was stuff on the bottom. So,
Looks like it wants to be a little Mediterranean.
so in the rear, this is the rear elevation, we are looking to do a breakfast room on top of an existing
Are there,
porch.
sorry to interrupt, do you have any surrounding homes?
No, I do not. The way that, well, there's nothing that relates to it simply because of the site. There's literally nothing, actually I have a bigger building. Here's the Google. Well, no, it's literally has multiple fronts, so we actually have, this is all one large front, and then this is. the
Yeah,
si-
but it's to see what
I don't know,
what the neighborhood was.
I get it, I
It's
get
a
it.
requirement.
It's a mixture of different, an eclectic neighborhood, and of different types of homes. This addition is going to match all the existing finishes and all the existing windows of the existing house.
Okay, you've been before this board a lot, you
Yeah.
have to bring You have to bring Google Earth, you have to bring photos of the neighbors' houses so we can understand the context of,
Well, that's Google Earth there,
okay, so,
but,
okay, let's see.
alright,
But-
so you're not changing the exterior really that much?
We only
The
are,
look of it?
we are, no, the look, no, we're basically, just adding a breakfast room to that back corner and cantilevering out a portion of the, so this is a quarter scale version of our, breakfast room in the back, which actually is very similar to the front elevation, which has,
How far out is it sticking, do you have a plan?
sure. So this is so there's an existing terrace that comes across here. And then this is our breakfast room that sticks out. The existing house has a small kitchen in here, a little breakfast room in here.
So this is all new?
This is all new.
You putting columns underneath it, I'm really cantilevering out
No, this
15
is
feet or?
this is cantilever.
That's
Ah.
existing, right?
It's existing,
This
Oh,
is
wait, sorry.
this is the new kitchen. This is the existing kitchen. We're cantilevering out
Oh,
2.5 feet over this way.
Right.
This space is on top of an existing terrace. There's an existing terrace that runs the entire back. It's in the photographs and in the other elevation. There's an existing terrace that runs the entire back. So this is a 1-story. It's about 12 feet out off the house.
This?
Correct. So we're simply building on top of that in this section only for breakfast room.
Are you filling in over this?
That
those
one
utilities?
section,
Got it,
correct.
okay.
That one section only.
Okay, oh, so terrace, it's really the roof of a 1-story piece, and okay, now we got it.
Well, it's a
Okay,
deck.
okay, I hadn't seen that, so,
And then did you say you're bumping the kitchen?
So we are
out?
cantilevering the kitchen 2.5 feet out and to the side.
So are you extending the roof?
No, the roof is strained. It's about a 3-foot overhang. So rather than mess around with the existing roof, we're actually cantilevering under the roof. The roof's gonna stay. We're not gonna alter the roof on this side. See, this is the roof here. This roof is gonna stay the way it is. We're just gonna cantilever this out under the existing roof because these overhangs are huge.
But then there's a 3-foot overhang everywhere else, so.
Correct. The roof's too complicated for us to actually then extend this further out. It's way too complicated and it's completely over the budget of the client. So we didn't wanna mess around with the roof at all.
so here it's gonna be flush with the edge of the roof? and
Nope,
here it's
it
gonna
wouldn't
go
be
around?
it would be flush, about 6-inch overhang on that side.
And does this roof overhang consistent otherwise throughout the
Yeah,
entire
there's
house?
a 3 foot
Correct, it
over,
is.
yeah.
So it's gonna,
Around the whole
okay.
house, so it's gonna be a little.
And what side of the house is that, and how does that face the world?
That's on the right-hand side of the house, which faces, which everything faces Little Pond. Luckily, there is lots of,
So which, slow down, so which side of the house?
It's right
Oh,
here.
there, okay.
little piece right there.
And which is the front of the house? Which is the front
Front,
face of the house?
front door is here. This is a shared driveway,
And that's the main road?
so this is the
that goes
main road that
across?
goes this
Well, it looks
way.
like the road just.
But you
Is
can't,
that
So
this-
it's the corner, so the corner.
So it's this little cul-de-sac or
Correct.
something? Okay.
but just so you know, the screening, I couldn't photograph, that's why the photographs are so terrible. You can't photograph the house from the street. You see
Yeah,
trees.
actually, well, here.
You see
This is
trees.
the-
There's literally, you cannot see the house from the street. You can only see the house maybe in the distance on this side.
Is the house on this side?
Well, there you go. That's what you can see from the road. Nothing.
It's not over here. That's another
No, that's this
lot.
house here,
Okay.
I think. Let's see if I can see the photograph there. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you see nothing from the road. So there's no impact from the neighbors or from
That's the next house, I guess.
because it's simply where it's
Where is that, huh?
situated.
This house is where?
It's got it. Let's see. Thank you. That's a different house. Probably across the street or
No, I know it's a
door.
different house.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were
Do
just
you know
wondering where it
which
is.
one it
In
is?
relation to that.
Oh, no, I do not. Honestly, I mean, I could guess. Like, I can guess that it's this one up here maybe, or it's this one right in front. It's direct, like.
It's not directly in front, cause I went down the road, so.
Got it.
Maybe here.
I have a better blow up of that. I don't know where we're at. Oh, the Google Earth map. I brought up
But
there.
from looking at
That's
that,
right.
do you think it's not visible? You can't.
I mean, it's hard to tell from there.
I know-
It looks like it's
I know
not.
it's not.
Well, what you should
I mean, but in
do,
the-
you should take a
in the s-
photograph
in the
and show
summer.
us the view corridor, and you could,
This is summer.
you know, hand that to us.
Okay,
That's, you know, you usually bring beautiful presentations, seems a little incomplete today.
okay. Again, I didn't think it was a.
No, but
But we don't
always
know,
request
you
it.
know, we don't know, we haven't been there.
There was a, I did bring a larger Google Earth map.
So you'd
I
say it
saw
might
it.
be in your pile.
Let me show you the
I
level
don't
of.
think we,
I did see it.
I didn't see it here.
I had it.
We're just holding it.
You can see the level of, so the addition part is right there, and basically this is all treed and screened.
Oh, so that's this house that I was looking at.
So the addition
This
is
corner
going,
right there.
And where are the
Correct.
additions there?
that inside corner there.
So you're gonna fill this in and come over.
Well, this screen that I'm seeing is from the summer, so it's,
Is it evergreen or is it a, can't tell.
some of it is.
Does it need like
lower.
little piney?
Again, even,
And what are the size of the new piece look like, can you see them?
No, I see the lower stuff.
The lower stuff.
It's like
Sure.
persistent or
was the
something.
size of what?
What's on the other?
That's the breakfast room. And
That's
this
the
is
side of this?
This is the yes, that's the side of that, and this is the cantilever here.
And what's this side look like?
Are there no windows? So no windows?
It doesn't show us, yeah, these elevations too are wholly incomplete,
Why they complete?
cause you don't,
Well, there's no
is there no
detailing.
window here, there's no materials, there's no fenestration, it just seems very
Can I see
incomplete.
the photographs?
Is there no windows on the back of this house at all, not one?
But that's new, isn't it?
I don't know.
It's just this.
There is not, yeah, not much to do. There are very few, or if any, on the chimney side, the chimney side.
Yeah, but you didn't indicate it.
Yeah, it's,
These aren't indicated.
Yeah, this isn't.
Isn't-
It's
Are there
incomplete.
windows here? Are those
it's hard
windows?
to tell. Yeah, you have to bring 4 elevations and you need to show the materials, and we wanna understand, you've rendered this in a little bit so you can see this, but we wanna see what it looks like with the whole house.
Okay.
You know,
Well,
and
especially
all
if
the
there are
whole
no
com-
windows in the house.
Yeah.
So again, so what is this side, are there windows, 3 windows on the same here too?
There's a,
Yeah.
so basically a French door and all windows, the all windows in the rear and the all windows in the side.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as an addition goes, it's fine, I guess my biggest thing is the roof, where the overhang is like a feature around the whole thing, and to go down the 6 inches, I understand that it's like, you can't rebuild the entire thing,
But it makes it look like it's an extension, it doesn't look
Yeah.
like it was part of the original house, cause
yeah.
it wouldn't have been done that way. What does that little piece do in the kitchen, I guess it's important to the plan?
Oh, what, to the plan?
Yeah, please. So it lines up here now and then we'll push it out.
And you need to bump it out for clearances around the island?
To make it a proper kitchen, correct. I mean, what they have now is for the size of the house and it's tiny. So to get it to work with an island with proper spacing, we had to bump it out.
Probably nothing you can do to the roof to make it look better, you couldn't, cause
You'd have
it's
to change
You
angled,
have to
you'd
take
have
the
to
whole
tear the whole
thing
thing out.
and, yeah.
Change the whole roof.
Um,
You know, I don't love it for the same reasons, but I don't think I would object to it because it's so Herculean to
yeah,
change it and to tell somebody the kitchen's probably need to do. And it seems like
Those are all
he's doing it
cabinets?
right everywhere else.
That
Right.
wall is all cabinets?
Yes,
So see, it's not showing any windows here.
there actually are none at that
How
level.
could there, There.
This whole room
So there's
has no
only
windows.
light in there?
No, there are windows here, I show those on the elevation, there's some tall transoms, I believe, over here. But there's nothing at the,
And then, so the only light on that whole side is down there.
yeah, well, this is going to be all glass here, this whole thing is glass. The existing
It's gonna be a dark
kitchen,
actually, even with the greenhouse here, this is gonna be really dark.
the existing kitchen is almost identical where you had this small kitchen here with the same idea of these two sides being all glass.
But it was much smaller,
yeah.
They were
So-
small, yes.
Could you do uppers over the, somewhere else and,
At least have.
yeah,
Well, again, they didn't want uppers here because they wanted to be able to have this overlook the back with the sink
I mean,
here.
it's the same
We tried the
dimension.
option of having the sink on this
Well,
side.
it's
and-
very much this, the corner,
Can we
look
see
at
that site mapping? Sure.
the Google Earth one,
Site plan, or you wanna see?
No,
the
the
plan?
Google Earth, I'm
color
sorry.
is Google
Yeah.
Earth,
That kind of dark.
you have it? Here.
Oh, yeah,
There you go.
So,
so
it's
here.
this corner
right?
that's getting filled in, so actually from, it's kind of like the front, so if it was completely clear and there were no trees, it would be in your face, the corner of that would be in your face.
It's a strange house because essentially the backyard faces the front.
Right.
Yeah, I think the pool's even right on one picture, there's a pool back
Right,
there.
the
The pool
like
is actually in the front,
yard.
yard,
So it must-
on paper.
Yeah, it must have got a variance or something even
We went through that was with
years
I
ago.
thought that front was
Bob
here.
Sealy.
Well, in real life, you walk in and drive in this
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
in terms of what automobile traffic sees when it drives past the house, it's kind of
Right.
looking
Yeah,
straight here and it looks like
even
there's a
now
front
with
yard.
leaves off, you don't see anything, you literally can't see anything from the road.
Because,
The screening. The way the screening is also there's topography. It's a really strange lot.
so it's elevated?
Yeah. Not much, it's elevated enough.
It certainly just seems like they would want some light in there.
Yeah, it's this, right?
Yeah. Is there room to do any of the Clerestory windows that they have over here? Can those be brought in somewhere?
The Clerestory, is that?
Not with the cabinet configuration they have, they want floor.
The cabinet goes all the.
I can't- What do you think this is? It's hard to,
Aren't those
Sorry.
windows up there?
I don't know.
That's
These
what he
are
said,
windows-
no, he said there were
I think
Clerestory
those
windows
might
up
be.
here.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it'd be great if there were Clerestories there to carry them across, it'd be wonderful.
No,
Put them above the cabinet.
They wanted
But they
full-
want the full
height. This wasn't even enough cabinets, they were compromising on this design, to let me have this be open. Cause I didn't wanna have that closed, so they have full view out of here. The kitchen actually it's bigger than the existing, but they wanted it to be bigger, so it was a compromise on their part, so. We tried the sink on this side with, the same concept here. They didn't want that.
Where's the sink now?
Right now it is in the island, facing nowhere. This is the view is this way, you can tell from the Google Earth image, this is their view. There is no, the view this way is trees, there's all trees here. Again, that's why you can see from the photographs, it's difficult to photograph the house.
But it's not just about views, you want some light.
I know,
you
but again, I've proposed all that to the client, and this is what they wanted. Not for lack of trying.
Come in?
We have to change all the kitchen.
Yeah, for the effort they're putting into it and the expense, they're really gonna get kind of a dark kitchen.
Again, I presented to them, and I've always presented multiple options, and clients don't always take them.
Unless they do skylights or something.
Yeah, they chose not to do skylights, it wasn't always the best solution for, they're worried about, I'm worried about solar, heat gain. This is gonna be very warm, it's gonna be very bright, it's gonna be very warm. I think they will get lots of light through here, because of all the light it does.
Which way's
Which
north?
way is north south?
Well, I think this is the way. Yeah, so that's south. That's facing due southwest. So they're gonna get morning, the afternoon,
they
and
painted it.
probably all evening light through there. So,
The shades are gonna be down all the time like
could be.
that,
Okay,
Just tell them
Okay.
that that was our concern, and
Of
maybe
course,
they'll,
that's my,
maybe they'll think about it.
That was my concern.
But
Again,
maybe they'll think about it again.
Sure, sure.
Say, you know, maybe.
alright, and when you come back for other things, cause you do,
Yeah.
please fully render
Okay.
all the elevations and take photos of the houses, whether you can see them or not.
Sure.
And if you think they're not relevant, cause you can't see them, and stand in the street, take a picture, show us on the site plan where you were, and we'll have the same experience that you've had taking it.
Okay.
So he's returning,
No, he's approved.
he's approved?
I'm
Oh,
saying
okay.
the next time.
The next time, because I think he's
okay.
coming before the board
There's
often,
also
so.
an NG. This one I heard okay.
Well, I think you haven't brought things in before, have you?
Yeah, you've been a regular, you've always done
No,
that.
but I don't think you've always brought additional photos.
You have not? Alright, we're gonna do watching.
That's fine, don't worry. Thank you. You want to check with him tomorrow about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call me or email me. Email's better, you know.
Okay. Oh, yeah, good. So I'm gonna do it tonight.
Yeah, please do.
Great,
Right.
thank you.
Thank you.
No, he always says, oh, I didn't need it. Oh, yeah.
Oh, why hasn't that?
I looked
That was
on
right,
Save
yeah.
Children on there,
What?
so please bring it.
Okay, a mistake, but that was, you know.
No, he's always the one that says.
Well, next time we'll be paying attention to somebody and he'll be penalized. Next time we'll say,
See that?
we've had other people who haven't brought these in and we look at it, we approve them, but we say, no, you have to come back to the next meeting to get approval. We'll approve
His
it.
face when I said that.
Hi.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we won't let them do that again.
Well, where are
Is
we?
this a sign or?
This is signed, this is just in, yeah.
Lena? Yes. What's your name?
Chris,
Chris. Last name?
Isaac, P-Y-Z-I-K.
You're with the sign company?
Yes.
So where's the back of the, oh,
Which door is it?
They're
which-
upstairs, and this sign is, right here. These are, I don't know, samples of what's around there.
So which space are they in?
They're up top in this building.
In this building?
No, this building here. I don't
Is this
know.
not a relevant photo? Should we not be looking at
what?
this?
Oh,
Well,
it must
it's
be
a-
this building back here.
Yeah, it's a photo of.
It's a weird building. This is.
It's in the parking lot.
This is
It's in the back
Starbucks.
parking lot
This
is
is
the
Starbucks.
entrance.
Oh, and you go in from the back?
Yeah,
Oh,
you park in the
Front door
back.
is in the
and-
back?
Yeah.
Yeah, you
exactly.
can walk down that alleyway next to
Right?
the coffee shop and get there that
God,
way.
I've lived here for a long time, I never knew
Never
that.
did anything up there.
What was there before? Was there anything there before?
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
There's no sign there now.
There's nothing there now. She's
Right.
upstairs and there's also, what is that, a psychologist or something that's
Yeah.
up there?
What kind of facility are you gonna be opening? What,
Oh,
she's
it's
there
there.
already.
It's
Yeah. It's clothing.
clothing store, yeah.
oh, you're already there and this is just a new sign?
So you have no
Yeah.
sign there now?
There's
No, she
nothing
doesn't
there.
have a sign
She's
right
nothing
now.
Oh,
there.
you're not,
No, I'm with him, I'm with the
Oh.
sign.
You're both the sign company,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
door, oh,
Couple
okay.
pairs, just in case there's questions.
it looks so small.
It's, you can only, if you're on the second floor, you can only have 1 foot high sign by code.
And it has to be in that, crammed in that, I know it's over the
well-
doorway, but
Are you-
it just
are you
seems,
Yes.
I'm leaning.
it just seems so, it does.
Lengthwise, you can do the length of your.
There's no other place
Tenant
you can,
space.
I mean, I almost feel like it's better here or something.
Can we separate, not have the logo and the tagline on top of each other, but next to each other to make it longer and each one can be bigger?
Can you make it longer?
It can, yeah, it can be as long as your tenant space.
And what's this, what's,
As long as the tenant space?
Yeah, as long as the space that you're renting.
oh, is it that whole floor?
I don't
Are
think
you
it's the
renting the
whole,
whole floor?
I don't think she's got the
Yeah,
whole
there's a
floor.
second place up there, so.
Yeah.
But she's bigger than this.
It just looks like it's jammed in the
I don't know, I
corner.
didn't even know where she was, I didn't know she was here, so.
I was
I'd
gonna
rather-
notice it, they're looking for it.
I'd rather
The
see
tenants are in
it,
that
you know,
building,
somewhere, like, so let's say you have half
Far
the
as we
floor,
know.
I don't know what she has, but let's say it's half. I'd rather see it moved over a little, it doesn't need to be jammed in there, I don't think it needs
But
to have the
how-
relationship with the door.
How legible is it at that scale?
No, it still needs to be a little bigger, I'm just
Yeah.
saying it should be
Yeah,
moved.
yeah.
And you can't put, can they put anything here?
second floor.
I mean, I'm assuming that's a stairwell.
No, it's gotta be, yeah, it's in line with what you're renting, it's the way the code is really.
They also want a sign on the door,
She wants
on
one
the
on
front
the
door,
front
when you
door
come
too.
in.
On this door?
Yeah, so,
And what are the material, oh,
This is a sample of it, it's exactly what we're gonna make it, it's aluminum with
that's nice, yeah. It's a lot better than, but it's gonna be bigger? So you're
Yeah,
gonna
this
have
is just
the
for her
aluminum
interior
side.
office
Oh, I
door,
see,
so I
okay.
just
But that's
brought,
about 12 inches, right?
that's 10,
10?
Is it
yeah,
gonna be this color?
yes.
Yeah, it looks white here, it looks like it's the same
Yeah.
color as a building.
I mean, you think, I mean, that's not big being high up too, that, like if
It's
she's,
so small.
if she's
So small.
limited to
I mean,
12
the-
inches, you want the logo to
The
be as big
logo's
as
so
possible.
small, yeah. Cause you could make that bigger and then put private shopping lounge stacks
We can
on
make
the
it
side.
longer.
Yeah, you
Sure.
can stretch this out.
Sure.
Yeah.
yeah, that's how she gave us her logo. The tagline is part of her logo, that's a stack like
Yeah,
that.
but I'm sure she wants her logo to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if this
Cause you can
moves over
gain,
or,
you can gain a lot of space. You can gain a lot of height and width if you get rid of that private shopping lounge.
so how wide
Well,
can
it's
the
also,
sign be?
it's so on the edge here,
That's the
Yeah.
that doesn't really work.
Yeah,
It
we
needs to have more
washed it
air.
into the 12-inch
Yeah,
area.
that doesn't look good.
So, if you're.
But if there's no-
Is it gonna look like
This
this,
is
or is
your
it gonna look like
tenant
this?
No,
space.
it's gonna,
Your sign
that's
can
an
go from
interior
here.
sign that she's using,
So
so
how
he
do you
just
know
brought
where
that
it's-
in
So the
as a
letter's really
sample.
gonna be at the bottom like this?
Well, as you're suggesting, I don't think she cares, she'll do whatever we,
Yeah.
instruct her, or.
I mean,
With the-
she's not
because we
like,
didn't even know
you
this
know,
was
Oh,
Chase
oh,
Bank,
that's
so
what
they
you
have
should do.
strict brand guidelines, so
So
I'm
I would
sure-
stretch out the
Okay.
logo and the whole thing, and then, but then
Okay.
instead of horizontal, cause
No,
I
I'm
would put
saying
3
this-
lines.
That's what I
Yeah.
said,
That's
yeah.
what you said? Okay, think of the same.
So we may have to see you again.
Oh, okay. You can't just approve that it'll be in 3 lines, I mean, we can't
I don't know.
just shoot you an email with it?
Well,
No,
we're
we don't.
leaving.
We
So
don't
these
know.
are public, they're public, even though there's nobody in here right now, these are public meetings, so it has to be, the change like that would have to be,
And we should do it right, they've been there a while
website,
without
on
it
our
anyway,
town
so
website.
it's not gonna
And
put them out
then,
of
so we
business
had
or
the
stop
top
them
Right.
from
of
opening.
it, and we really can't say much, but it is open to the public.
Is the front door sign approved, or?
oh,
It's
This
the
is
same
the front.
thing, just a different size.
that looks, well, and you're also gonna be a lot closer to it, so.
Oh,
18 wide by 12
and
high.
that's all you can do? They can't go to the width of the window?
Well, I don't know the tenant space, I gotta see what,
Nobody's
this
gonna
one, this
be
one they.
It seems like at least they should be able to have it the
Yeah.
same width of the
Doorway.
edge.
It's
No,
it's
not the
height that we
doorway,
have
the
a
window
code
here.
on,
Right,
like-
so
Yeah.
it's 18 inches, is it?
That's gotta be
But this,
more
at
than
least
18.
you're gonna be right in front of it, so it's,
Yeah.
the scale is,
Yeah,
is
that's
more
okay,
legible.
but I feel like it's so small.
That might not, it's just a mock-up on the door. I didn't actually measure that window, so.
Let me see, if it's a 36-inch door, it'll be a little bigger than what you see there then.
Oh,
maybe
okay.
slightly
Yeah,
bigger.
it's
Yeah,
not
okay.
to scale, but.
I mean, it would be nice if it was aligned with the edge, if you could do that.
Yeah, if that's a
Edge
36
of the
inch door, it'd
window.
be half the,
Yeah, we can do
width
that,
of the-
as long as the height you're saying is 12, it doesn't matter what the width is, so.
Oh, that has to be 12 too?
Yeah, anything on the second floor, 12 inches.
So make it the same width of the glass,
Gotcha.
so that there's a relationship, and then,
Keep
you
it
know, leave a
12
little
high.
border on the edge too, don't have the
Yeah.
letters kissing up against the edge.
Mm-hmm, okay.
And stretch it out as best you can, as big as you can, leave a little
Stacked
border.
also the tagline on
No,
the
I
front?
think that one's fine.
Yeah, that, cause it says upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't
But I
issue
think,
permits in pieces
I think
either,
we'll
so
wanna see this one,
be-
the one
we
on
would
top
issue, like,
again,
for that.
but at least you
So
have
we get
that.
the top.
Okay,
Okay.
so you do
Alright.
permanent both
Right.
together.
Yeah, because we.
So we need to come back for another meeting?
Right.
It'll be in
No, that's
10
fine.
minutes, it'll be
Okay.
5 minutes. Do it, do it to scale, do it so we look at it literally. So if you're not gonna put a border, don't put a border, if you're gonna give us some space, put some space, make it as realistic a visual as you can.
Gotcha, no problem.
And then you'll just show it to us, we'll go, that's exactly what we
That's
talked about,
ours.
and you're
Oh,
approved.
gotcha, okay.
So you know,
Okay.
so I didn't hear.
So we're
Yeah.
okay with the door sign, so make it the
The
width.
width of the glass,
and then-
yeah.
And then
Which I
the,
guess you'll indicate on the.
And this one we can make as wide as possible to, maximize
Blow up the logo
Yeah.
and to put.
Whatever
Keep it
your,
at
I don't know
12
what your
inches.
restrictions are,
yeah, we don't know
so-
what the
Alright.
width needs to be.
December
I'll go with
20th
if
for
you
them?
want to send me an email.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I just wanna make sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
So December 20th at
Alright.
8 o'clock.
okay.
December,
How come, We have a zoning board December 20th.
I know.
You're gonna have both meetings?
Well, they're in there, we're in here.
Okay, so Steve
Oh,
will sit
but
in.
you
no,
are-
Steve will sit on that.
It's also
Oh,
Hanukkah.
do you go to zoning?
It's also
I
Hanukkah.
forgot about that.
Oh, is it
Starts at
Hanukkah?
12, right?
Oh, no, does it end it ends the 19th?
Okay, see you in
Thank you.
2 weeks
Bye.
then.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
So are we good
Right.
for the 20th?
I think so.
Ends at 20.
Steve Davis will have to sit in.
What?
Steve
12
Davis
is
will have to
Davis.
sit in.
12 is Thursday, 1,
Okay.
2.
He's the
He's
assistant.
the
but he's
assistant.
doing it.
8. I guess the last night is the 19th.
I don't have a long agenda, don't you think?
Probably not.
It probably might just be that.
You didn't have to win.
What?
I said I didn't have to win anybody.
So we have the approval.
You can come closer.
The plans from 2015. You wanna look at them?
Thank you. Been doing this so long ago, I didn't know.
Is that?
I remember it, it's running so long ago.
Sunshine next?
Yes.
Alright.
Does anyone know who Dick Van Dyke is?
You
You get that all the
You said
time.
that 2 years ago.
No, I wasn't here, I wasn't
Okay,
at the
somebody
meeting.
said that 2 years ago.
But I noticed I wasn't at that meeting 2 years ago.
Isn't that
so-
interesting?
Can I ask you, Phil, before you start, I'm sorry,
Can everyone just sign in on that sign-in sheet, please?
I just wanna understand what's the relationship, who everybody is, can maybe just go around and if you're with the applicant, say you are with the applicant, if you're an interested citizen or a neighbor, just identify yourself as such, please.
Dave Slosher, Schaffer Architects with the applicant.
Yogi Klein.
Andrew Canning, concerned citizen.
Cynthia Manicherian, a butter resident, 100 Glendale Road.
Linda Conti, neighbor.
Joe Valletta, volunteer.
Will Wedge, a concerned resident.
Linda Mosiello with the applicant.
Thank you.
May I ask, Robert, are you chairing the board this evening?
I am the chair of the board.
Yeah, okay, I haven't appeared in front of the ARB in a long time. Before we start pulling out plans and drawings and looking at
I'm
it.
sorry, I wanna hear the applicant go through the presentation first.
Okay, well, that's my question, before the applicant starts, what is the purpose of this meeting, Robert?
So I think that he should,
Okay, this is the architecture review board.
I
It's a
understand
public
what you're
hearing, and I wanna listen to the applicant's presentation, and I ask the neighbors to please hold off until we listen to the applicant.
Okay, but I'm sorry to be persistent, but I'm going to be. This is a referred matter from the zoning board.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm gonna interrupt you, and I'm gonna ask for the presentation first.
Okay, well, I hope the minutes will show that you haven't answered my question, is what is the purpose of the meeting? I insist that the minutes show that, because this is a referral.
We'll have that conversation after.
We'll find out when
I wanna hear
they
the
present.
applicant, and I'm gonna ask everyone to please refrain from speaking.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Now that you haven't answered my question, sir.
Thank you. I think what we've got here is basically a little bit of duplication of what's there. I think the drawings you've got there are the original, back
These are
from
from
2015.
Correct.
14, 15, okay. We're here as, because we basically, obviously, once we basically went through architecture, we went through ZBA and planning board and multiple meetings. Between planning board and ZBA, there were recommended, suggested modifications in the configuration and siting of the addition, primarily to for steep slope interferences, for property line, to basically make property line issues. What is in front of you right here is basically what was presented to you and given to you in 14 and 15, which basically shows the addition, the configuration of the building to the existing, and its proximity to this existing parking lot and to the property lines here. What we're showing now, by comparison, is virtually the same configuration, just simply shifted around the hub of the existing. But what it does is it clears, provides more clearances around this parking lot. The steep slopes that are up in this area provides more clearance there. And because of the resiting or twisting of this building, if you will,
we made a couple of modifications. There was one of the educational wings that was up here is now down here. And I'll make it even clearer. What we did was, this is an overlay from 14, 15 to an interim modification that was directed by ZBA. The black is basically where, the red is where we were. The black was where ZBA directed us to be when we basically moved it. And you see at that time, we still had this octagonal wing off to the side up in here. And when we got into further discussions about the steep slopes, there was an issue of the proximity of the steep slope of this element and clearances for the fire lane.
Which way is it sloping? Sloping up that way?
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved it further up than this.
Actually, originally when we were before you, this building, the black, so where's the new classroom?
This isn't the new one. This is basically, this is the interim, right?
So this was the original plan that was
This is the original to.
before you,
Yeah.
and this was pushed over. We should be out of the buffer when we went to the zoning board.
To make it simpler, basically, there
So,
were,
so the whole same building was basically pushed off, and this room basically got more into this corner.
there were three phases of
And when
this.
we went to the planning board, they were concerned about the steep slopes. That's when we moved this, everything stayed the same, but this room got to a new
Yeah,
location.
so we basically.
That's different than this,
Which is this.
Yeah, so, I'm showing you as the phases. We went from basically the original, which was that, to this black line. And then because of what Ari just mentioned, we went from that black line to where I just represented as the original. And again, it's a little hard to see, but basically when you see the overlays, the building is essentially the same. And except that basically this educational wing that was here in the red got moved down. And you can see the outline of here. The actual square footage of the building decreased about 4,000 square feet. Now we get to the architectural components of it. Before I get to that, do you understand basically the history of this?
Do you have a site map? Where is this?
I think I was here, I remember this a
Oh,
couple years ago. These
we
are-
weren't.
Let's go back, let's go back to this right here, which is basically where we are today. And
So,
if you
so
look,
this wing that is here right now was over here.
Okay, no, I just wanna understand
You
where it
guess to
is
this?
in town.
yeah, they wanna, okay, here's what, maybe you can
We
take a
haven't
step
seen
back
anything,
from,
so-
yeah, my colleagues weren't here for the presentation several years ago. So maybe you can take a step back
sure.
from the beginning, give us an overall site plan, show us the elevations and, let's start where we are today, which is obviously why we're here. But we will be comparing 2014 architectural to today's architectural to show you that although the building shifted, architecturally, the components all remain the same, the finishes remain the same, the heights remain the same, and essentially, other than basically certain connections that had to be modified, everything is virtually the same. For proximity, you got Spring Valley Road down here.
I don't know where that is, so.
Cedar Lake Park is right here. Cedar Lake Park is right here.
Okay.
Where
I don't know
in
where-
Newcastle is this, is the overview, they're not familiar with the neighborhood.
The west.
The west end of Newcastle on the border, right, the
Towards
Austin
Austin.
line, correct, on the Austin borderline.
Actually, after this line here, the other side of this is
That's
Austin,
awesome,
right?
okay.
And basically, the site here basically rises dramatically to the existing children's hospital, children's nursing home that is located in the shaded area, lightly shaded area here. And the expansion area is the dark, it's going up to 122 beds. This is primarily from the resident standpoint, from the children's standpoint, it's a single-story building, there's a second floor. Virtually because of the rock that's up there, everything that normally would be in a basement is now on the second floor. We have clinic and we basically have respite areas for the parents and stuff like that on the second floor.
And is that existing building going to remain, or
Yes.
this is a
Yeah,
replacement?
Nope, it's
Okay,
attached right
okay.
here. I'll show you floor plans.
Okay. Do you have photos of that existing? From before? Oh,
The floor plans are the
so
same.
that's a new,
This is the old,
that's,
that's the old, that's the old rendering.
I'm gonna leave it, just not look at that.
So we could photographs of it?
I was just wondering if we have it.
Do we have any photographs of the existing building? Do you have any?
Outside?
Yeah, of what the outside, of the original existing, not the new project, but the existing building.
No, this is
You
staying,
have,
this is staying the way, the way.
No, I
I know, we
understand
just
that,
wanna
but-
understand what it looks like and how it
You do
fits
have-
with the new building and.
On the interior finishes side. You'll see, this is, right here, it's basically a view from this direction, basically looking over the sunroom. And then basically, this was an addition that was done.
That's the material, the same material that we'll be using
Uh-huh.
for this building, which is this color.
That's right. So these were the same finishes, they were presented in 14, 15. And we basically are, no change.
That's just some change in the configuration of the structure.
Just a change, yeah, if, bring that back, sorry. About the sheet size, I'm glad you got a nice big table here, helps out. So, the first package right here is the existing, again, the 2015.
It's a big expansion.
And this is a rehab center for children with,
It's a licensed
Linda.
nursing home for children with complex medical needs. These are basically ventilator dependent and quite complex kids.
And what actually is being set up here organizationally, and again, it's the same organization, the way the facility is laid out as was in 2015, which is basically, again, the primary functions are on the ground floor, at the same floor elevation as the existing. This is being done about approximately 2 feet or 2.5 feet above the existing, with ramps up to it, primarily because of the rock that's on the site. But you can see basically what we have is essentially 4 different neighborhoods, which are progressive, age progressive, from birth, infancy, on up to age 16, 18,
They can
right?
take up to 18 and as long as like age 21.
And do you accommodate all that same population in the existing building right now?
Right now, in our existing building, it's from newborn to up to age 18. We have some that are awaiting placement who are a little bit older than that.
And what actually, the way this is being organized is, again, that within the neighborhood, we have basically a communal area. Food and everything is brought to that area. It is their neighborhood, and then there are common areas in the middle. So this neighborhood basically has an outdoor area, as does this, as does that. And then as an element that's added to this is the educational component, which is basically classrooms that are up here and in here.
No, that was moved
So
forward.
each community essentially
This
has
is the old drawing.
all the
This is
functions
the old
that the
drawing.
children.
Right,
This is the old
yeah,
one.
because.
But I just want to show you that this is where we were. And then what we, where we are today is essentially the same thing. That octagonal classroom wing was moved over here because of the steep slopes, moved on that. And again, overall, we're about 4,000 square feet less. The connection to the existing is made the exact same way. The elevation difference between the two is the same, 2.5 feet.
Actually,
and-
the 4,000 less is on the second floor.
On the second floor?
Second floor, right.
And then the, again, we have nursery, and then we basically have preschool, then we have teenagers, and then we have the adolescents over here. And they all basically meet in the center with therapy and basically socialization activity areas, therapy pool, and then staff and operations and things of that nature. So I think
And you have this area is an outside courtyard, and that's another
Right.
courtyard outside.
and those were,
And then the center over there.
they were there before in the same basic configuration. The exterior,
So
again, from the front elevation and drop-off point, the drop-off point was shifted over in here before. But again, sorry, I couldn't bring that. Hate to give you a job. This perspective is both original and proposed. the perspective, this is the drop-off area, this is the building. We'll actually show you basically a comparative of original and proposed elevations. But these are the interior finish, or the exterior finishes. The heights of the building remain exactly the same. Again, there's a shifting of some configurations of these because of the site alignments and stuff like that. If we compare elevation to elevation sheet, this is actually, if you look before and after. I know it's a little, it looks a little complex, but basically this is every elevation before in the 15 submission, and we've given you this on all CDs as well. And then this is basically today in the 17. And you can see basically from a height standpoint, from a gable standpoint, from the extent of stone on the building, the CFB board, they're virtually the same. And the way this is that compares to this, and that compares to this. And again, you'll see shape differences because again, when we had to rotate it, we had to modify the footprint. But you'll see that basically here's the primary, one of the primary elevations here. Here's the entry elevation, virtually the same. This is the elevation as you approach the facility from the front. Again, virtually the same, this to this.
Where's the difference elevation with the octagon shape?
The only difference is basically, again, on the octagon, it's over in here to here, and basically, that's about it. I mean, again, the octagon itself is an element that we just picked up and moved from south to.
That's the classrooms.
Yeah, the classrooms. So I guess I'm just kind of strongly trying to emphasize that basically what you saw and approved in 2015 is essentially the same thing, just rotated a little bit around the link of the existing building, again, because of requirements, suggestions, and that were imposed during the planning board process and ZBA process.
So they've gone to ZBA.
ZBA,
Yeah, I mean, for such a large building, it's nice that how broken up it is with these materials and the shapes, and it's, I mean, it fits with the existing, and the scale feels comfortable because of the material changes.
That was basically a requirement of Ari and his associates, was basically, again, because of the nature of the facility and the children that they basically serve, the existing, prior to 15, I think we worked with them for probably 4 or 5 years in renovating the entire interior and basically putting the sunroom on and making it more of a, if you will, an Adirondack camp, something very interesting, something that basically fits with this particular site, which is kind of an estate type of site. Not trying to make it overwhelming or all-encompassing from a height standpoint, but basically trying to emphasize the different neighborhoods and the different look and the character, so that as you were to walk around the building, you're gonna get different looks and residential styling.
Is it a somewhat wooded?
Yes, it's heavily
area?
wooded.
And in terms of the prior approval to the new one, you're closer or further away from the perimeter from the neighbors?
Further away.
This was the previous one. And
Where are the neighbors?
Yeah.
we have neighbors over here and over here. So
Again, this is
this didn't change at all.
It's a rather large site. I mean, basically the entire site is.
This used to go around like this, the red.
Right.
Used to go around like this. And now it's, over here is the same. Over here is exactly the same, it just cuts it in a little more here. And this was moved over there. So this whole area
It's more internalized.
is preserved. And the parking on this side was also moved over closer to the building. It's from here.
So the neighbors are how far away?
Well, you can see from this basically, this is the site, here's the addition.
How many acres is your property?
33 plus acres.
closest houses.
They're
Well, closest houses are right
property there,
Oh, yeah.
up in here.
and on that side too, you said.
I mean, on a scale standpoint, this is this is 122 feet here, so you're basically 600 feet to this particular property line.
But what about the back?
Here, we're basically in the 55 foot category.
But there are homes on that side, you said?
There's, right now, it's a wooded lot.
From an architectural standpoint, I mean, we're here, our board is to look at the architecture. And some of the changes are insignificant from the prior approval, and myself, I think it looks very nice, I think it's beautiful, you've done a nice job.
Thank you.
So if we can keep it civil, I'm happy to open up for a conversation that better be civil though.
No, I understand that, but I need to emphasize that there are some significant developments over the past 3 weeks with respect to the applicant. And I have a submittal that I'd like to make to this board. Copies of be submitted, I'd like to pass them out, but I'd like to backtrack a little bit. Your fellow boards, starting last Wednesday with the zoning board, have delayed action, have ceased activity on the approval process for the applicant's building as a consequence of unpermitted activity that has occurred on the site. Now, the normal course of events was that the ZBA, as a matter of pro forma matter, was referring back to the board, the planning board and the architectural review board, documents which were approved by the ZBA in the September timeframe. And we're dealing with an administrative return to you and to the planning board, basically as a courtesy from the zoning board. And what has happened though on Wednesday at the zoning board is a consequence of what I'm about to show you. And in summary, what the zoning board decided to do on Wednesday was hold until certain information is made available from the town staff and the building department with respect to an ongoing investigation into the applicant's unpermitted construction activities at the site. So on that point, the planning board last night agreed with the zoning, with the ZBA, and said they will take no further action, no action at all, until the town submits to the zoning board its review of what's gone on the site in the past 3 weeks for review and response in a public, by us, by the public, and by the building department, by the zoning board and the planning board, and you guys. You should be aware of what activities this applicant has done. So on that note, I will hand this out to you guys. Richie, what is, I'm sorry, Mr. Polcari, what is your capacity here tonight?
Building inspector?
I understand that, but is that typical for the building inspector to ARB? I didn't understand that.
Always.
And I apologize for my terseness at the beginning, but this is a hugely important matter for many residents in this town, especially in the West End and especially in the incredibly environmentally fragile area of the greater T-Town area. This is a hugely oversized building for its lot. It has no sufficient water supply and no sufficient wastewater treatment. And in summary, it's hugely oversized. It might be a beautiful building, and that's your purview. They might use wonderful finishes on the exterior, and that's your purview. But in the larger picture, it's hugely inappropriate. But to what happened in Thanksgiving week, if you look at the photographs, this is a section of their site plan on the first page up in the northeast corner of the property. They commenced well activity and drilling. They excavated a storage tank from the ground that was approximately 30 feet long, 10 by 10 in diameter. They buried, they demolished a 100-year-old stone and mortar structure that originates with the Cress estate. This was originally the Cress estate, and prior to that, an earlier estate. They demolished a historic building They demolished a historic fountain that were part of the original estate. That may be of some interest to this board, but mostly they did unpermitted construction activity. Well drilling, excavation, demolition, electrical work without electrical permits. They disconnected a well pump, and they terminated electrical service to that well pump without electrical permits. There's no electrical permit on file. Is there in the building department, Richie?
There is now.
There is now, but there wasn't at the time of the action.
They did not take it out, they took it out.
Right, okay. So they were in violation admittedly by our department. So there are multiple things you can see here. You can see slurry on page 2 from well drilling. There was uncontrolled discharge of well drilling slurry over the site. The slurry contains potentially radioactive granite and radium. The granite in the area is very high in radium content. This is over a watershed of a shared aquifer that is used by multiple residents, and they just discharged the slurry from well work without siltation fences, without any normal site controls, plus without a permit. They buried the roots of mature live trees on their property and on the perimeter property with the excavation work. They did this work in an area that is a wetland and without wetland permits. And the list goes on and on. They cut mature trees, the last sheet here, these are 16 to 22 inch caliper trees without a tree removal permit. All of this work was conducted essentially under the cover of darkness of Thanksgiving weekend. Fortunately, vigilant residents who live in the area, including property owners with adjacent property to the building and other concerned citizens, were able to spot this work when a 60-foot well rig came in. Now what's happened is the town has opened an investigation into this unpermitted activity. As a consequence, the ZBA and the planning board have delayed any action on the applicant's proposed rezoning for a site, I'm sorry, it's a special permit reapplication.
Amendment to a special.
Amendment to a special permit reapplication. And what I'm urging this board to do is not to look at the architecture, but to look at the administrative process here and say, well, we would like to stop like our sister boards have until we can get a definitive answer from the town's staff that they're working on it and town council who's active.
Okay, I got it.
You got it?
I got it.
Okay, so there's huge
Okay, I got it.
malfeasance here.
You guys have any comments
I
to
just
that?
wanna make one point, that when we went to the planning board and this was brought up, to ZBA, and this issue was brought up, the ZBA basically told them that that this is not their place, this is the building department, and the building department is investigating, and at that same meeting, they referred us to this board and to the planning board.
Right, and both the planning board took no action.
Excuse me?
See, let them talk,
Let me
please.
talk sometime. So the ZBA didn't do it, basically said that this is a building department issue,
Okay, is this true? Why did you do this?
and this was done, that the building department is actually investigating this, and we're giving them all the information, the building
So
department
you
was
didn't
there.
do this?
Hey, can you please not interrupt?
The building department was out there today. The building department and the engineer
Is this true?
was out, this is true.
Why
This is
was
live
this
pictures.
done like that?
We had to do maintenance on a well, and we sent in all the information to the building department, and I guess they will
We
have a
will
report,
review it and come with what has to be
and they
done.
will send in a report.
If I can comment, it's not well maintenance. I'm a professional builder. I know well maintenance. I
Okay.
drilled dozens of wells.
Does anybody else have any comments to make?
Andrew Canning. On a different, I mean, related, obviously project-wise, but different issue. Is this closed or you?
Oh, I
Okay.
No, I'm asking for other people now to have a chance to
Yep.
speak.
My question, and if I'm probably gonna use the wrong words, but I understand this is the second time that this board has reviewed the project. My question, since I didn't have the summary of the first meeting, is how does this board think about scale? Because the thing that strikes me about this project in regard to the purview that the ARB has is scale of a project relative to the neighborhood. And so I don't know if you can recall from 2014 or 15, whenever you wrote the summary of the last time you saw this, how can you comment at all on how you think about the scale of this project vis-a-vis the neighborhood?
Well, I don't recall, I don't wanna speak for a couple of years ago, I would say I was surprised, I remembered the project, I was surprised that it was a couple of years ago, time flies. It's certainly a large expansion in terms of square footage percentage to what it is now.
Right.
I think they've done a very good job of taking a project of that size and fitting it into the site and making it look attractive and having appropriate, scaled buildings. We see often smaller residential homes that are completely out of scale and out of character. The massing, the materials, it's clearly not a single building, it's kind of meandering, or it looks like it's meandering through the property. So I'm just speaking for myself, for what's a large project, I think they've done a very skillful job.
But relative to the neighborhood, there's nothing even close to this size, Walmart size kind of building. It just seems completely out of character, and I would think that would be within the ARB's purview.
Well, this isn't a home, and there's a difference between scale and program. I mean, it seems like they've got a lot of services that they're trying to offer, and the alternative to doing something like this is to do a much smaller footprint building that's a lot taller. So in terms of scale, this is only 2 stories max, right?
Yeah.
So they're trying to fit a lot of things into a building that seems to want to complement the scale of the neighbor, I don't know, the residential.
But the neighborhood is completely residential, there's nothing else
With
like
all
it.
due respect.
I'd like
Okay,
this gentleman.
that's fine, I'd like to
before-
respond to the board member's statement though.
If this were in an area of town that had, state roads and good fire suppression and everything else, and, hang on, sorry, and it was non-residential in character or mixed use, then I think your point is a good one, that, different views of architectural merit, but it would be in keeping with that type of neighborhood. But this is predominantly single family, there's some condo type of developments further away, but it's predominantly
Not in Newcastle.
not in Newcastle, predominantly single family residence, and this is going to be just a dominant structure.
But you're speaking about the use, I think.
Yeah,
It sounds
I
like
mean,
you're
it's-
saying, why are they allowed to put this kind of a facility in
That's
this
its own.
location? That's a question not for our board.
That's for the zoning board.
Okay,
That's,
I thought
Yeah,
scale
even this size
relative
was all
to
doubled there.
neighborhood is within your purview.
Well, for an approved use and an approved square footage, that again, isn't the purview of our board. We're told they're allowed to build that many square feet
Okay,
in
so
the site.
that's ZBA.
And we think
That's
they've done,
ZBA.
I think they've done a skillful job of taking that size building and nestling it into this site. Now, if you're saying, I don't think they should be allowed to build anything that big, that's a different question and topic, and it's not for us.
I read through the purposes of the ARB, and I saw one of the 10, 9, whatever number of purposes is scale. And so maybe I'm misinterpreting.
But as Sarah
scale.
said, they could have built it,
This could be a
Higher,
10-story
but-
tower.
Not in Newcastle, it can't be.
well, they could have built it to what, 30,
Excuse me.
35, 35, I don't know what the height is.
Actually, you have to also compare it to the size of the property. I think that when everything is said and done, it's less than, about 10% of the property.
Okay, the zoning board approves the sign, is approving.
Okay,
So you're really
size.
questioning the size, not the
Yeah.
scale. We think they've done a skillful job, I think, of taking a building that size and fitting it in. If you're saying, well, I think it's too big, why are you approving a building of that size? We're
Right.
not approving a building of this size, it's not up to us.
Okay, so the
That's
ZBA
our-
approves the size,
We're
and then
approving
you
architecture.
approve basically the exterior
The
skin of how, and the
When
appearance.
it comes to us, they've already got the right to build that many square feet. And we're critiquing how well they've done that, or if they have done it in an inappropriate way, or if we think they can't possibly fit that many square feet in something that looks appropriate, then we would challenge it.
Okay.
But I don't feel that that's the case right now.
Okay, thanks.
So I think it's the wrong board. I think your issue is really with the wrong board.
Okay, good.
I'm gonna give some handouts also. This is a board member?
No, she's the board secretary.
Oh, so she gets a copy.
Yes,
Thank you.
please.
For you.
Thank you.
So I'm Cynthia Manchurian, and I was
I think we should also
actually
get a
here
copy.
at
Can I have a
your,
copy, please?
Do you go, Richard?
I'll look at Daisy's, you know, go back to Daisy.
you want?
Go to Daisy's.
So I was actually here at your meeting, July 15th, 2015. And it was the first time that I had heard anything about the project. And I didn't understand it, so I was here with my husband and didn't comment. And at that time, in fact, the zoning board had not given its approvals to the project yet. Everybody was kind of on parallel tracks, I think. So now I'm back, and I'm very happy that you're reviewing the project, and I think my presentation answers a lot of your questions, for where is it and so forth and so on. So I'd like to go through it page by page to answer your questions and to give you context for the project relative to the other taxpaying residents of this R2A zone. The first Indian Brook Reservoir Critical Environment CEA map shows you in red, kind of down here, that is the 33-acre property. And you'll see above it this kind of blue, dark blue river in the middle that ends at Indian Brook Reservoir. So that is the critical watershed that wraps around. And you also see all the way to the left the Hudson River. You see the Croton River and the Hudson Estuary. A lot of wetlands in there, and it's very woodsy, as we talked about. And the topography is pretty rugged, the terrain. So that's in context where it is. The next page shows you this one.
Excuse me a second. Where's your property in related to this?
That, I'm gonna get to it. When you start flipping through pages, you'll
Okay.
see. So the next page shows in red the Sunshine Home. And then you see at the top, slightly east, my 22-acre undeveloped lot. And
The gray
outline. Outline is 22 acres.
That's undeveloped, or that's where you live?
I have contiguous land with already permitted divisions. So I have several
You live
lots.
next to it on the
And you're
lot.
gonna see, I'm giving you the whole, so you have a clearer idea. Here, this gives you an idea of the terrain and the steep slopes and the area of disturbance that has been approved for this project, which really is a substantial amount of their 33 acres. It's not exactly tucked into the corner, because everything that's along Spring Valley Road, which is at the bottom, you have wetlands, and then you start to rise in elevation. So there's nowhere else actually to build such a project. That's the location. And I would argue that their line of disturbance is actually bigger. Just for instance, what Mr. Wedge was talking about isn't in the line of disturbance, and that was a lot of disturbance that happened last week.
This, all of that,
Yeah.
the work was way out of the area of disturbance.
So the next page is talking about their tree planting once their project is done. And that's kind of material to me, because you'll see where I live now and where the disturbance took place over Thanksgiving. A lot of brush and kind of screening that's natural to the area, it's woodsy, got wiped out. So now I already see their parking lot from my property distinctly as a result of what just happened unexpectedly. And it's gonna get worse. And the trees that we're talking about planting back into play are 2-inch caliber. I don't think I'm gonna live long enough for the screening to really take effect, honestly. So,
Yes, you will.
do you think so?
Yes.
I hope you pray for me that I do, so, but I don't think so.
By the way, just for your information, I don't know if it belongs to this board, but if we're talking, one tree went off.
And the shrubs and the
One.
natural
Okay,
environment.
let's, we don't need to do that.
And I actually don't know,
One tree
because I
or
didn't
100, it
expect
makes
it.
no difference.
And one other thing that I just wanted to know, that when you were here the first time at this board, I don't know if it was you or your husband, did give some comments,
He did ask some questions.
and also gave some comments, and accordingly, when they wrote their memo to the zoning board, they asked for trees in this area, if I remember correctly, that memo. I don't have it in front of me.
I don't know what that memo is, I did see their minutes, are you talking about the minutes to their meeting? Because I never saw the memo.
I'm almost sure that I saw a memo.
There are minutes that are posted on the website from that meeting, but I don't know what the memo said, I've never seen it.
So I just wanted to correct for the record that I
Alright,
remember that we
thank
spoke.
you.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
Well, it's gonna need a lot of trees. So then, to put it in further context about the neighbors, you have the municipal tax parcel viewer, Westchester County. So in red again, you have the Sunshine property, you have my green undeveloped but developable property. And then if you, this little landlocked piece here in yellow and green is mine.
And
The
that's
one-
where you-
The one directly above that here, that borders Glendale, is mine and where my home is, and you can see it, kind of a little speck
So
there.
you have 3 lots and your house is in the lower left corner of the top right
No, my
lot, so to
house
speak?
is higher,
Her
Up
house is
here?
right here.
Yeah, okay, so, okay.
and I have this lot next to it along Glendale as well, so 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
The house is right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can see the rest of the neighbors, you can see Indian Brook Reservoir right there, and you can see Cedar Lane Park and a dog park, which is directly below their property, which will be severely impacted by the architecture, the location, etc. as well. And a lot of people use that park. It happens to be rated like number 2 dog park in Westchester County, something like that. Number 2. It's significant, that dog park, for a lot of Westchester residents.
And by moving that school from that corner towards the front, if anything made it better, because it's further away.
And I'm gonna argue differently on that
Okay, we
front,
we
but
hear
we'll
you.
get there,
Please continue.
because I just brought the pictures so that you
Please
have
continue.
context. And understand that all of these people are on wells, right, and septic on site. So it matters not only the attractiveness of this building, but the way in which it's going to use the natural resources of this very rural area of Newcastle. Okay, then I did an exercise for the planning board, which I want to share with you, starting here, where I made the assumption of a footprint of a 45 by 50 foot residential single-family home, which would be a nice home for that area in terms of square footage and scale. It would be appropriate. So that's just an example of what that would look like, and I want to share it with you. I've already submitted this to the planning board a while back. The next page puts it in context. I was hoping for a bigger screen, but I'll walk you through it. This is unfortunately the old, I'm running out of money, I couldn't afford to redesign this, but the old siding number 2, which you never saw, with the school room tucked out, right? But the scale is the same. And the exercise I did was, there's a little gray square across. That's kind of a buildable part of my 22 acres. And with the proper setback. And I tried to show the planning board, well, this is what my house as of right would experience.
How many acres is this parcel that we?
This parcel is 22 acres.
There are multiple locations that you could site a house on?
There are several, and I have 4 examples of where, and no matter where, what that might look like. And I didn't do it, I had a licensed architect do it, so.
There's actually a natural ridge over here, I don't know where the house shows.
I did a thorough job, so these are
Okay,
actual
let's hear what you.
possible locations for me. And honestly, when we bought this acreage, we used to have 3 daughters, young daughters, now we have 3 young adult daughters, and there was this idea that maybe over time, that's what we would wanna do with our acres. So what you see at the very top, I should take this apart, of the first example, is what that house will see from its location, the view shed. And what you see here, when Ari talks about elevation, the green is the actual contouring of the elevations between me and Sunshine Home, if it's built like this. So I won't be blocked by a ridge if I build a home there. I have 4 examples of what that would do by moving my house and what it looks like over the top from my house to this house or this home or this hospital.
Which page are you on?
I'm just moving, you can watch the little gray dot moving along the property. That's the house. And then that's the view from that location. And I picked 4 spots, and you can see from each spot that there's no ridge blocking my experience of Sunshine Home and and what I see. And I think I have a right to build my 22 acres. That's why I bought it. I pay taxes for it. And nobody seems to have cared about that yet. And I would only build to the appropriate scale and kind of rural quality of the west end of Newcastle. So you can go through these elevation C, elevation D. So elevation D is interesting because I'm in the way top far corner of my 22 acres. And you see that there is no ridge blocking me from seeing the building. And this is what I would see from the way top corner over here. Okay, so I looked at it in several ways. And for 22 acres, I think that I would get approvals if I wanted to build more than one structure on the 22 acres.
What is this a photo of?
We're moving along. So this photo shows you roughly the view now from my property, from elevation, composite B. That's what I see now. So actually the ridge is Ari's ridge, it's not my ridge. His land is really rising at that point from my property line, you can see in the back, and all of this will be building. And that's what I would see from composite elevation B. I mean, that's what I see now versus what I would see.
Are you still at this one here?
Well, the chairman kind of jumped ahead to the
This
photo.
photo is
So
what
this
you would see
photo
from
is what's there
composite B.
now.
Looking from where? From the 22
Looking
acre lot?
from roughly elevation, sorry,
D?
B. B.
Second.
I didn't want to flood you with a lot of pictures, but that's what you see from that vantage
From
point
B.
now. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. And then this other photograph is what you see currently from the top back corner, the last example of pushing me back on the 22 acres. I actually have, I'm on my acreage, I have my daughter's boyfriend standing in the front there for scale. And I already see.
So that's the parking lot?
I already see the parking lot. Now. So, I'm just asking, trying to give you that 3D experience of what that will feel like. Then I started to meet all of these wonderful people who I never knew before, who all live in the area, who are all kind of excited about this and the impact that this building will have for them, even visually. And I did present this to the planning board as well. When the building was moved back off the top northwest edge, as described, the classroom was swung to the front out of the view of the dog park, which is next door.
The building wasn't switched, just the,
The swing away from that edge.
part-
You pulled
the
away
part was
from the
switched.
edge and stated that,
this here was taken out. you know.
yeah. So you stated that it'll be far less of an experience for people who use that dog park.
But it's further away from the dog park from here to here than from here.
Sure. However, what you see now when you stand at the dog park is this photo. And you could even see my property line in the back. So we're literally at this corner, right here. So my property line is running this way, the dog park is right here. And I'm providing you with a little red dot, which is point A, the perspective from a person standing in the parking lot of the dog park, which many people do every day, and what they'll see when this is built. And this is what they see now, right? And what they will see when it is built is this. So you have point A, looking, there's the human, and that's the size of the human. And they're going to do a little bit of a retaining wall, 10 feet instead of 20 feet, which is what they got reduced by moving the classroom away. And then the height of the building in blue. So that will be the experience for the little red human standing at the dog park, which you can correlate with this map, which shows the human on the site plan. That's the actual experience of moving it away from the dog park. It's still a fortress. It's not in scale, it's not what the current residents experience and the amenities that they care about, like the Cedar Lane Park. Then, the next view, if you go back to the site plan, it says point B, perspective view, in red at the top, the north point here, which is my property. So back to me in 3D, what you will experience is, this is what I experience now when I take a walk. And what you will experience after the building is built, there's me as a human standing there, the red point, and the 3D experience of this building. In fact, I'm really impacted by this building and this architecture. It's not in scale, it's not the experience of the neighbors currently, it's not the lifestyle that we have chosen to live in our neighborhood. It really changes everything. And the last piece that I'm offering you, which I also submitted to the planning board, is this Town of Newcastle planning-based study, the build-out analysis. So what you have again here, these red lines are your western edge of Newcastle. So you govern all the way to this tip, and the Hudson is over here. The red is the 33-acre site, and I'm, as I've shown you before, up here and over here, and the build-out analysis has identified appropriate places to put a home relative to the topography and what's still available that makes sense to build. So according to the way it's identified, I believe they count 3 residents per home in Westchester County as a typical number of people, and the square footage, I used to be able to read this. Can I read it now?
I have 11
There is a
kids.
square footage.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, some of us have none, some of us feel that need.
So what is this supposed to convey? What are you
So
trying to
this
convey
is
with it?
this is supposed to convey the scale and the expectation of the neighbors in terms of how many homes or built structures and the experience that the neighbors will have of these structures. So
This
in
is
your
this is a planning document
To figure out where to build.
from the town,
Yeah.
talking about where built environment is and is not appropriate given the structure, given the nature of the town.
That would be a ZBA would have looked at that, if the applicant came in with a block building in the same location as ZBA approved location, you would point them to maybe something that you liked better. Again, if you didn't like this, you would try to point them into architecture that you thought fit in with the area better.
So I'm bringing this into play just by reading kind of what your purview is to protect public investments in the area. So building this, instead of building this, there were real estate brokers who, in fact, the person who even sold me my home, who's famous in the West End, whose mother, he inherited the business from his mother, who came to say, you build this and the real estate values of the West End, not to mention the other municipalities that tuck to both sides of Newcastle, will go down. And so that's an issue of anyone else who might wanna build in a future time, incling me on my undeveloped 22 acres.
I understand.
And the architecture, the value of this architecture, yeah, I'm good. The value of putting up this structure and this architecture relative to the value of the
Okay,
rest of
I
our
understand that.
investments.
Is
So-
there anybody else in the room that wants to speak?
I would just like to say a word about the dog park. I am a frequent user of it. It's very, shall we say, pastoral almost at this point.
Could you identify yourself
I
for the
did.
record? Oh, you did already? I'm
I
sorry.
did, but
You signed in?
I didn't, nobody gave me the sign in. My name is Linda Conti, I live in the town of Yorktown, there are 4 towns that come together there, you know that. I can't tell you the difference it makes to the participants who are up at the dog park, to even hear any construction there. The dogs stop, they don't move, they are frozen in fear. But I cannot understand the difference, and I haven't been privileged to see those pictures or so on. I cannot understand how this dog park could fit into something that would look almost so big and so huge, because it's supposed to be very pastoral, it's supposed to be out in the forest, in the woods, and I just don't understand how it could ever fit there or meet the needs. I know it's not your dog park, I know that other things are important, but I think effectively it would minimize the use of that park.
Anyone else in the back, any comments? No? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one more comment about scale and massing? This building is proposed is 143,000 square feet on 2 floors. So for the sake of argument, let's divide it in half, that's 71,500 square feet of footprint. 71,500 square feet of footprint is 2/3 of the size of Seven Bridges Middle School, approximately 1/3 the size of Horace Greeley High School. You're talking about a structure that is one of the largest proposed for the town of Newcastle ever, and clearly on a scale in a residential district
With no municipal
with
services.
no municipal
But
services.
again, just to make, I wanna make sure you understand something, because you started out asking about the board and everything else.
Yeah, I do
It
understand.
is, okay, so
Get it.
municipal water services, utilities, zoning, square footage, not our board, not our purview.
But that's why I asked you not to do
Protecting the public
anything.
investment.
I agree with you, that is.
And if
That's
we
your
run
mission.
out of water and if we have this big commercial facility in our residential area, our homes are worthless.
This
But
was all discussed
again, our
at the
purview
ZBA.
is architecture, just so you
Well,
know.
it says on your mission statement that your purview is to protect the investment and
As it-
value of the
As it
town.
relates to
To
having
our-
architecture create a hindrance or an issue.
Right.
Okay.
If I could just emphasize one thing, is basically over the last year and a half, virtually all this information is professionally done as it is and thorough as it might be, has been presented to both planning board and ZBA, and that particular plan is approved. Basically, the only thing we're back there for now, I believe, is steep slope and tree removal,
No.
things like that, right?
No, for the change that, this
For the
was
change.
not
thought there was a
But they have-
deferment, I thought there was a deferment.
Yeah, there
Planning
is.
and
There's a
zoning.
complete stop right now in the process. The ZBA has said it has deferred any activity, zero activity, until its next meeting. The planning board
The ZBA
yesterday.
did not say that.
You know that that's true?
Excuse me, Ari, this is my impression of it. I'm speaking. Don't interrupt me.
Excuse me, you're not running the
You're
meeting.
scaring me, excuse me.
You're not running the meeting, so I think we're gonna ask you to please refrain from here. I've listened to you, you're not running the meeting, okay? And you're not the spokesperson for the ZBA, and you're not supposed to be the source of news to us from the other boards. Okay? So please refrain, please excuse yourself, yeah. You're,
No, the ZBA has put off public hearing till the next meeting. They just extended the public hearing to find out what was going on, they just wanted some more information.
So there haven't been any approvals from the planning with the ZBA?
Well, they were, this, again, like I said, this plan was approved, the original plan has been approved. Now, because they've changed stuff, it's gone back for an amendment to the special use permit. And so that has not been approved.
And how does what allegedly happened over Thanksgiving weekend, how
It
does that
may-
impact any of those
It may or may not
boards?
once we finish our investigation, because it's, you know, appears it might be outside of the scope of the work. Might have been work that needed to be done regardless of whether they're doing this project or not. That's what we are looking into.
any comment?
Just to go back to what we're responsible for in terms of the architecture, and I appreciate all the work that you put into this, and it looks like a lot of effort, but just we can't approve something like this, like a big front walls, so, you know, not being responsible for the scale or, you know, what they're allowed to do. Our job is to make sure that it is something that looks like this and not a blank masonry wall front that, you know, it doesn't fit into the context at all.
Right.
So we're charged with, you know, making sure that this, however large it is, whatever they're approved for, is in context of the site and surrounding area, and that the materials work with, you know, what's there existing.
It may make sense, we haven't done this in a
I think
while.
what I was gonna say, I think this warrants a site visit.
Right, that's what I was gonna say.
With all the board members, so we can witness the topography, we can experience how the building will lay out, and we haven't done that in a while, but I think that in this case, we should do that.
I agree with you.
I understand the blank versus the, I could only do so much 3D and put in fenestration. But you do have under number 10, encourage construction of structures of appropriate scale, size, and massing. So that's the massing, that's the experience of the massing.
Right, so I think, I agree with Ann, I think we will organize a field trip for our board, and we will go out and walk the site and
We'll take
understand where
this,
the
we'll take
building is,
this.
and we'll pass our judgment, we will evaluate in the field what you're suggesting, that maybe it's too big, or it's too imposing, or it's coming too close, and, well, I do think you've done a very skillful job at this, and it looks very nice, and certainly the changes from the last design are insignificant. Hearing that, you know, some of the neighbors come out unhappy, I think we should take a field trip, so we will do that. And therefore we'll hold off on voting.
We do that on houses too sometimes.
It's not unusual.
We brought this up
not just
basically to
for-
leave for your records.
Thank you.
I think we also delivered a CD as well,
Yeah, it's on
the
the website.
so, assuming you wanna leave these and stuff like that.
I'll take 2 copies.
Okay.
And normally after a meeting like this, you write a memo or you make a vote, or how does that work?
She takes minutes, but I
So
don't think
they-
we're voting on anything until we
Yeah,
see the
we'll go do a
sign.
field trip, and then we'll probably
And we'll have to
notify you and
organize
ask
that
you to
with
come
you,
back.
since it's your property, so.
Right, well,
Okay.
right.
And the next meeting is, actually it falls the same night as the zoning board meeting, it's the 20th of
I'm not,
December, so.
we can't guarantee that we're gonna
Okay.
be
I'm just saying
able
that-
to
yeah,
visit the
that's-
site between.
We have to
now
find a
and
Saturday
then.
or Sunday that works for our schedules,
That's
because
our
it's too
schedule.
dark in the weekdays. Okay, so thank everybody for coming.
One more time. Thanks.
Scheduled
The next one would be on another presentation, or do you want to say that?
Well, it's not gonna be a new presentation unless you make, unless you make revisions. I don't, I mean, if we have a question, we'll call you.
We want to emphasize it.
You want a copy of this?
You have more than one copy of that? Yeah, you got, my copy went with the signage. Thank you.
I saw somebody didn't want, I thought I'd throw it over here. Thank you, Mr.
We adjourn the meeting, or
I'm
we?
sorry.
Yeah, please share if I can sign in, it
Audio
comes
and
back.
television,
We want to,
TV on?
Can she just hit pause or stop?
I'm sorry, stop.